year raises big questions for major economies around the world. What is the outlook for growth in 2025?
This is now a national crisis because housing is unaffordable for all but the well-off and those with access to a bank of mum and dad. And as a result, there's much more inequality.
Understanding and predicting the economy has long been a challenge for economists, policymakers, and society at large. However, the work of Henry George and Fred Harrison provides a coherent framework to unravel the cyclical nature of economic systems. Henry George's groundbreaking exploration of land, rent, and speculative behaviour, combined with Fred Harrison's refinement of these ideas in The Power in the Land, offers a practical method for predicting economic trends and addressing the crisis of inequality, housing affordability, and financial instability that plague modern economies. In this video, I look into the principles of George and Harrison, explaining how their insights can empower people to anticipate economic cycles and mitigate the damage caused by their peaks and troughs. Henry George's foundational work in the book Progress and Poverty identifies the role of land as a unique factor in economic systems. Unlike labour or capital, land is finite and immovable, and its value is determined by societal and economic development. George demonstrated that the unearned income derived from land, referred to as economic rent, plays a crucial role in driving economic inequality and speculative bubbles. He argued that as economies grow, the value of land rises disproportionately, leading to increased wealth for landowners at the expense of workers and tenants. This dynamic only entrenches inequality, but also destabilizes economies by encouraging speculative behavior in real estate markets. Building on George's analysis, Fred Harrison expanded the theory of land's economic significance in The Power in the Land. Harrison identified a recurring 18-year cycle in land values, which drives booms and busts in the broader economy. Through meticulous historical research, Harrison demonstrated that this cycle has been consistent across centuries, influencing housing markets, financial systems, and economic growth. The cycle begins with the economic expansion, during which rising land value attracts speculative investment. This speculative activity eventually creates a bubble, driving land prices to unsustainable levels. The bubble bursts when speculation outpaces real economic growth, leading to a collapse in land values and a broader economic recession. After a period of stabilization, the cycle repeats itself. The predictive power of the George Harrison framework lies in its focus on land values and economic rent as leading indicators of economic health. By analyzing trends in land prices, rent levels, and speculative behavior, it becomes possible to foresee the onset of economic downturns and anticipate their severity. For example, Harrison's application of this framework enabled him to predict the 2008 financial crisis, which was driven by speculative excess in the real estate market. His warning, based on the predictive peak of the 18-year cycle, highlights the practical utility of George's and his own theories. One of the central insights from this framework is the recognition that land speculation, rather than productive economic activity, often drives economic bubbles. Speculators purchase land not for its productive use, but in anticipation for future price increases, creating artificial demand that inflates prices beyond sustainable levels. As land becomes increasingly expensive, housing affordability declines and economic inequalities deepen. When the speculative bubble bursts, the resulting crash harms not only speculators, but also ordinary citizens, businesses, and governments, triggering widespread financial instability. To apply the principles of George and Harrison to economic prediction, it is essential to monitor several key indicators. Changes in land prices and rents provide early signals of speculative pressures in real estate markets. Rapid increases in these metrics often indicate the approach of a speculative bubble. Housing affordability metrics such as the ratio of average house prices to median incomes can reveal the extent to which rising land values are impacting ordinary citizens. When housing becomes unaffordable for large segments of the population, it is a clear sign that the market is overheating. Speculative behaviors such as property flipping and excessive mortgage lending also serve as a red flag, highlighting unsustainable market dynamics. Government policies and interest rates play a significant role in shaping the land value cycle. Loose monetary policies such as low interest rates often fuel speculative investment in real estate by making borrowing cheaper. Conversely, tightening monetary policies can precipitate the collapse of speculative bubbles by increasing borrowing costs. Public investments in infrastructure and urban development also influence land values, as they enhance the desirability of certain locations and drive up land prices. These factors must be considered alongside market trends to make accurate predictions. The insights of George and Harrison are not only valuable for predicting economic cycles, but also for designing policies to mitigate their impact. One of George's most significant contributions was his proposal for a land value tax, which would capture the economic rent of land for public benefit. By taxing land value, governments can discourage speculative hoarding and reduce the severity of land bubbles. This tax would also provide a stable source of public revenue, enabling investments in infrastructure, education, and social services without taxing labour or productive activity. Harrison has similarly advocated for land value taxation as a means of stabilising real estate markets and preventing economic crisis. The application of George's and Harrison's principles extend beyond taxation. Governments can use their insights to design proactive policies that promote equitable development and prevent speculative excesses. For example, regulating mortgage lending to curb speculative borrowing can help stabilize housing markets. Public investments in affordable housing and urban infrastructure can ensure that land is used productively rather than left idle for speculative purposes. By integrating these strategies into economic planning, policymakers can create more resilient economies and reduce the frequency and severity of economic downturns. The relevance of George and Harrison's framework is particularly evident in the context of contemporary housing and financial crisis. Across the world, skyrocketing housing costs, speculative real estate markets have created significant challenges for governments and citizens. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, exacerbated housing inequalities and highlighted the fragility of global real estate markets. By applying the principles of George and Harrison, it becomes possible to address these challenges in a systematic and sustainable way. Land value taxation combined with policies to curb speculative behavior and promote sustainable development offers a roadmap for stabilizing housing markets and ensuring economic stability. So by learning to predict the economy through the lens of Henry George and Fred Harrison is an invaluable skill in an era of economic uncertainty and instability. Their focus on land value and economic rent provides a clear framework for understanding the drivers of economic cycles and anticipating their consequences. By applying their principles, individuals, businesses, and policymakers can move beyond reactive approaches to economic crisis and adopt proactive strategies that address the root causes of inequality and instability. The relevance of their ideas underscores the importance of integrating land economics into mainstream economic thought and policy, offering a vision of a fairer and more sustainable economic future.